We came to LaGrange County because ancestors had word that this was probably one of the most aggressive areas that we could be in to fit their agricultural needs, and I'm sure that they realized that this was a real good place for them to raise a family and prosper. We started out with hogs and dairy, and some of the dairy for beef, and the crops were, and Ma always had chickens, and crops were corn, oats, wheat, clover. We farmed with horses when I was a little fellow, and that was my granddad. We lived with my grandparents, and they had two farms, so we kind of learned to farm. We learned to fish and hunt, and it was quite a challenge for me and horses because my granddad had a bunch of broncs he got out of Kansas, and I'm 6, 7 years old, and when you'd open the door, here they would come in, they'd run over there and everything, and so I learned to kind of have a bad opinion of horses along with those, and so I said, Malin will never own a horse, and he never has. And so the farming was consist of our hogs and our cattle and milk cows, and we always fed some young cattle, and we had sheep and chickens, and our farming was kind of, when we got into droughty years, we got hit hard because we didn't have any hybrid seed corn at that time, and I got into a corn husking contest in school, and I won a peck of hybrid seed corn. Well, my granddad bought a bushel of DeKalb seed corn. Man, that made a big difference. So we started always using the hybrid seed corn after that. Well, the biggest change I made was to get it cleaned up and get rid of all the rocks and stone piles, and with Soil and Water's help, they let me know how the easy way to do it, and the people that would do it easy for me. So now we've got it down to where it's we can farm a lot of the ground that wasn't available before. It was growed up to grass and brush, and we got a lot of tiling done. So Glendon Sears was really good at knowing his soils and what it needed, and so I was really fortunate to have Glendon Sears and Riley Case as county agent. They kind of really took a liking to what I was doing, so I kind of enjoyed really working with them. We had our farmer ag classes that they sponsored, and first, before when I got out of the service, we had our GI classes for 3 years. Then we went to our farmer ag classes. Got me involved in 4-H, which was really a good thing, and we still work with Soil and Water and 4-H with my display at the 4-H fairgrounds. I got involved with Soil and Water Conservation District when Riley Case was the county agent. He said, we got to have a Soil and Water Conservation District after while we were still going to our GI classes, and this was 1950, and it took us about 1.5 years or so because we could only go a township at a time. And I forget what the percentage was you had to have of the farmers. At that time, farmers were the only one that could be involved in soil and water. And I think you had to have 12 or 15 acres at that time before you could be involved. We worked with different townships, and finally we got enough townships that we could get soil and water started. And we had our first meeting in the basement of the production credit building in LaGrange, and then they brought Glendon Sears in, and we hired him the first time he come up. So from then on, it was Glendon was really busy, and one of the first jobs he did was at the fairgrounds. When we bought the fairgrounds, we put up some buildings, and Art McCoy and I were working out there. We were about the only ones that were working there at that time, and we put up the beef barn and the white building and the shelter house, and we couldn't get the holes dug with, REMC tried to dig them, our NIPSCO tried to dig them, and the telephone company tried to dig them with their augers, and we ended up digging them by hand with a post hole digger because it was so cobbly stone, they couldn't do it. So, and then I remember Glendon coming out, and he said, now when you get ready to put the plate on, he said, I want to come out, and then he set his transit up and marked all the poles. He told me when I marked the poles, and this building is probably 200 feet long, and so there's a lot of poles to mark. And it worked real nice then to just measure up from where the mark was to put the plate on. And at that time we had some help, and the building is still there today, and the roof we put on was aluminum roof, which is still there today. Well, LaGrange County looked like it really needed a conservationist to get things going, and we were ready for it because we really needed some soil conservation. We were working, but we were not getting the job done that we really knew we could do. So we needed some help from some soil and water, and this worked out great with Glendon coming in here and coming up with some cover crops and plow down green crops, and so it worked out real nice for us to have this man involved, and we had to do a lot of drainage because our tiles and our ditches were in bad shape, and so this all fit in with Glendon's work, and I'm thinking that we all prospered from that time. Population was LaGrange County was pretty much agriculture. We didn't have factories like we have today, and so it's kind of a blessing, I think, with soil and water working with all these people and getting where we are today. Wow, the first Soil and Water Conservation Board, don't know if I can remember all of them, but George Gadsden was one of them. He was the president most all the time. Scott McKibben was on it. I think, trying to think, Ernest Talmadge was on it, and probably Kenny Perkins might have been on it. Bob Reed was on, yes, Bob Reed was on. Freddie Weiland come on later on working with Glendon Sears, but before that, well, Glendon did it on his own because we just didn't have any money to have anyone else hired. Some of the challenges we had were the main thing we jumped onto was washouts, and we would get together take tractors, go, and Glendon would say, well, he'd lay it out, and we would plow these washouts shut, make them about 20, 30 feet wide, and seed them down to grasses, and those washouts are still working today. They're sifting the water down over the grasses and doing a real good job. We had a lot of Amish that were slow to accept our soil and water ways, but when they got involved and see what we could do, the other townships come in real fast, and that made the county a real solid conservation district. And we've had a lot of every year we have our annual meeting, and we used to sell tickets because we needed a little money, because we didn't get any. I don't think we got anything from the county at that time, and so it was sometimes maybe they had to kick in a little money to buy both postage or something like that. But it was kind of a slow process to get started, but once we got the whole county involved, they really realized that it's something we really need to do. Oh, conservation. Conservation to me is a life-saving thing. I mean, our land is producing so much more with our conservation. Because our conservation has really improved our bushels per acre and our quality of our food. Conservation is definitely a lifesaver for all of us. I think the district the future is going to be very much aggressive, probably more so than before, because I can see that most of the people that are involved and see what's going on, what conservation is doing. There's no walking backwards at all. I mean, this is a business that is going forward. It's an organization that's really interested. It's got a lot of people involved, and I think anyone that really understands conservation really is in for getting involved and following the group that's leading the way.